broadcasting live from our studio in Appleton, Wisconsin. You're tuned into Fox City's Core on WCZR Code Zero Radio. We're the show that gives you an opportunity to call in and be a part of the show. Our call-in line is 920-358-0795. Core. He's been on the show before. He owns and operates SourceTrack Studio, recording studio in Appleton, Wisconsin. He's also in the band Noetic. David Pietila, how's it going?
You got it.
So you were recently on with your band Noetic, but we wanted to get more into what you do as your full-time gig, which, of course, is SourceTrack Studios in Appleton. When you were on about a year and a half ago to talk about the studio, you had recently, at that point, moved to your new location, which prior to that you were doing it out of your house.
Yes.
How has the process been since we spoke last? Are you more settled in?
Dude, I love it. I love it. The building's got so much space. My landlord is awesome. Shout out to Tom. And the live room sounds so good. The control room is 16 square feet bigger than the bedroom studio in my house, so that sounds a lot better. There's a huge lounge that bands can go hang out in and just hang out on the couch, play some Nintendo 64, have some coffee. It's great. It's really great.
Well, to kind of set the stage, when did you start recording bands professionally?
Professionally, I don't know if I am even yet, but I think I started my studio officially in 2017. My wife and I, we bought our first house in 2016, and then my friend Lucas and I put my studio together in the house, and then it was just hit the ground running from there.
And what was, you were moving a big desk out of there, and I know you had help moving stuff into the studio. Did anything get damaged?
No, nothing. It was great. The move could not have gone smoother.
And is there anything that, since we spoke a little over a year ago, that has been a big change at the studio as far as gear or anything like that?
Mark Golde at Rock Garden recently retired from music, and he's doing a lot of good video stuff now. And I helped him tear down a lot of his gear there, and he gave me a really good deal on some compressors and some EQs. But none of that's even hooked up yet because I've just been too busy making records to futz with the gear. So, but I've also got these moving baffles that have made a big difference. I got those from Mark. So,
having a place like Rock Garden close, what did that do to the traffic as far as bands coming in to Source Tracks?
I'm busy. I'm very busy. I'm thankful for that. I think Mark's clientele is kind of split between HoneyTone. You had Patrick and Jeff on recently. Those guys are awesome. They have a beautiful studio. And then they're coming to SourceTrack. And then some people are going down to Milwaukee. So, and some people are recording themselves even. So it's kind of all over the place.
That's one of the questions I wanted to ask you. As far as how bands record, have you noticed a difference from when you started recording bands to now as far as how a band goes about getting ready for recording?
It's different for every artist. Some bands like to record every track, like they get an interface and they get a DAW and they record every track and solidify every part beforehand. Some bands send me a phone demo, which honestly I really like, just a phone demo. Like get the band in a room, put the phone somewhere where you can hear everything, because I want to hear the song in its rawest form possible. That's what I prefer. And some bands come in, they finished writing a song 2 weeks ago, and they're like, all right, let's get it done. So it's all over the place. I like the variety, and I like how some bands really know everything they want. Some bands want my input on stuff, and some bands we kind of start from scratch.
So if a band comes in and they just wrote a song and they want to record it, do they normally have that figured into the amount of time that it's going to take to get it recorded? Because that typically will take longer to work out.
It depends on the band and the song. If the drummer is really solid, and if the guitar player has their guitar set up, like recording guitars takes so long because of tuning. I don't care how good of a player you are. If your guitar is not set up well, it's going to take forever to record because of tuning. So if the drummer is really solid and if the guitars are set up decently, it's not going to change too much. I mean, as soon as I hear the song, I've got ideas flowing, and I just kind of work with it. I want to stick to that initial energy and not lose that, you know?
When Rock Garden closed, you ended up working on a project which got you in contact with like Kurt Gunn, Michael Grabner, a lot of different artists. Can you tell me how you got involved in that? Oh,
yeah, that was a little bit before Mark closed. That was with Fox Valley Literacy, and Jim Weidert, he had contacted me. He was working there at the time, and he said, hey, we've got all these students and they've got all these stories. We want to make a record. And I thought that was just the coolest idea. So they got all the heavy hitters around town: Chris Golde, Amelia Ford, Kurt Gunn, Grabner. I mean, and Tom Thiel, just huge names around here, and the A-listers of the Fox cities. And we put together this record pretty quickly, and turned out really cool.
What was the process like for the artists coming in? Did they come in separately or in groups? How did that work out?
Yeah, it was long days, a couple of really long days, because there were so many artists, and the goal was to get it done quickly. So each artist had a slot, and in that slot, it was between 2 and 3 hours for most artists. They had to record it was mostly acoustic guitar and vocals, and people like Michael Grabner, I mean, he was one take on everything. He was incredible, and we had a lot of that. But that was pretty much the process: track for 2 to 3 hours, and then I would do some editing. After the long tracking days, I would go through and edit everything. Once the edits were approved, I mixed everything and then got it sent off.
Did any of those artists have to come back in to touch anything up or add anything after the fact?
Yeah, Amelia Ford had her full band play, and we added some djembes and some bongos and stuff, and then we had to touch up some guitar stuff on that. Yeah.
A project like that, I think, can do wonders for spreading the word, about a studio. Mm-hmm. Did you get a lot of feedback after that project came out from people that wanted to check out the studio because of hearing a song that was recorded from that compilation?
Yes. I think specifically Tyler S.J., we just did a Christmas song. It turned out amazing. And he also brought in a bunch of heavy hitters. Like, he brought Kurt Gunn back in, and then Tom Thiel, and he had Rick Chapman on drums. And I think he heard my work through the Fox Valley Literacy Project, so that was really cool.
And was that the first Christmas song you've recorded, or have you done a Christmas song prior to Tyler S.J.'s?
Not an original. That was the first original Christmas song. That was really cool.
And did you decorate the studio or do anything to make it more Christmassy in there?
I should have. I think
that's like one of the things I hear about with Elvis when he was doing Christmas albums down at RCA in Nashville, is they would put a Christmas tree and decorate the studio because he'd be doing that in like June or July.
Oh, okay.
But how do you get the vibe to be Christmassy? It was
cold out, so it's Wisconsin.
Has Tyler talked about doing any follow-up recordings there since then?
Yeah, we were going to meet, and I was going to take him to Tipsy Taco, and we were going to talk about doing an album. But we both got stupid busy, so I was going to follow up with him this week, actually. Yeah.
Well, I think the connections, like you mentioned, Kurt coming back in a second time. Once you start recording artists, it seems like word of mouth is a thing to bring people in. Mm-hmm. When you're not talking about word of mouth, what are the other ways that people are finding out about SourceTrack?
A lot of it is on Facebook. So I do these Facebook videos. Well, I did when I had more time.
You're still doing them, which is great. Like every once in a while, I'll see one.
Every once in a while. So the big thing at the beginning was I would do these videos. I would just talk into my phone, and I would give people tips on recording. Like for guitars, use thicker strings, get your guitar set up. Your pick size matters. So if it's a thicker pick, it's going to bend the strings a little bit more, whereas a thinner pick acts more like a natural compressor. And but that changes the tone as well. And then tuning toms for drummers and how to get a good slap out of your kick and stuff like that. So people would share those to their friends too. And then I got a lot of people reaching out through those. And then I started doing these mix walkthroughs. And one guy I can't remember what song it was, but he was like, dude, that snare drum is awesome. And my snare went not even viral. It was popular for like 2 hours.
Do you have still a course up? Because at one point you had how to make a home studio sound.
Oh,
it was like
yeah.
it was a whole course that you were doing.
Yeah, the home studio professional stuff. That's taken a back seat. I'm too busy making records to promote it.
Is it still available if people are looking to get it?
I don't know. I have my Kajabi account. Kajabi is where I'm hosting the course, so that's where all the videos are. I have my account parked right now, just because I don't want to pay the yearly. It's a lot of money. I don't want to.
It's stuff people don't normally think about as far as when you're doing something like that. All the extra fees and different things that come with it.
Yeah, and same thing with the podcast. Like I was doing the podcast for a while, but it just like Wix increased their price. They doubled their price. So I killed the podcast website because I don't have time to do it because it's a time sink and I'm making records.
Well, that's a good problem to have because
Yes.
I think ultimately those things were feeding into making more records, right?
That was the idea, yeah. The podcast, when I first went full-time in the studio, the podcast was kind of twofold. It was, to get new bands in, of course, but I also just wanted to hang out and meet people because what am I trying to say here? When I was recording at home, I never left the house. So I was going a little crazy, so I wanted to just hang out with people. So the podcast was a good way to just get cool people in.
Well, and speaking of cool people, we've had a couple people just pretty much saying hi, like Tristan James Lane.
Oh,
and,
nice.
Jacob Yeager.
Hey, Jacob, yeah.
So it's I mean, it sounds like things are going great at the studio. Your second open house at the new location was a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Had a chance to go by and check that out. How was the traffic at the second open house compared to the first?
So the first, I thought that was going to be the big one because like it's a brand new building, location, whatever. The first one, it was pretty good. We had 40 people there. And then I thought, well, are we really going to do this every year? I thought, might as well. When do artists have a chance to go hang out in a recording studio and not have to pay anything?
I think even for fans, like if they wanted to see where, a band or a song that they really like was recorded, I always thought it was a cool feeling to walk in, just to be in the space and soak it in.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's cool. Well, I'm really glad I did the second year, and we're going to do it every year now, because the second year almost doubled. We had like 75 people there this year. It was insane.
Well, and the time that goes into it too. You've got refreshments, beverages. You've got music playing on the desk. That was recorded there. It's a really cool time, and anybody that hasn't gone, like if you do the third one, I would suggest people go check it out.
Well, thank you. It's going to be. We're shooting for like every November. Just because things are crazy in like all the way through October. In November, it slows down a little bit. So, and it's also cool enough outside to where we don't have to have the AC in or don't have to have the heat on because there's a lot of people in there. It just keeps it warm. So November's like a really good temperature to have the party too. And it's a good time.
How late do people typically stick around for that?
I don't even think I got to see everybody this year. I was just bouncing between people every 5 minutes. But Nightmare Hippie Children, they drove almost 3 hours to come hang out. So they didn't stay very late because they had to drive back home. But some people, Will from Amelia Ford's band, he was there until like 11. We were just hanging out in the control room. So yeah, it's all over the place.
Those kind of events, I think, again, are really neat because it gives people an opportunity to see where the magic happens, especially if you're not in a band. It opens that door. Have you thought about any experiences where people could come in and maybe watch a song being recorded or anything like that?
My brother was actually just, at the last party, he was asking me about this. He wanted Nightmare Hippie Children to do a live jam, and I was like, man, that is a great idea. I'm not set up for it right now because you got to set up the drums, and that takes like an hour, and then you have to set up, all the cables for the bass, guitar, vocal mic, and there were a lot of people there too. So the live room would have to be cleared out, and everyone would have to be in the control room. So I'm thinking about possibly doing I don't know if I want to say this yet, but I have some ideas to where that could be a reality. Yeah, I'm working on it. I've got an order of operations for projects this year. The big one was getting my website updated and moved over to a new host. And I think it looks a lot more professional. It feels a lot more professional, and you can book a call with me right on the website now. But after that, I've got a few other things in the works to basically move the business along and keep it growing.
That's always exciting to hear of, changing the course a little bit to discover new territory. And there are, like, SourceTrack's a great studio in the Fox Cities, and of course a historic location, the former Studio H, and I don't know what was there prior. At the open house, did you get people coming in that recorded at Studio H that said, I remember being here?
I think I knew everyone that came in for the most part. But people do talk about Studio H all the time. I really think Tony had the best mixes in this area. Like, I loved Tony's mixes. I think he was an incredible producer. And then Aaron from White Raven, he moved into that building, I think, in 2019. He was another really good producer. His
so that
mix
was a studio after Studio H even?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, White Raven. Aaron had some killer mixes. Everything was just so, like, sparkly and had this power to it. So I've got some names to contend with in there. I mean, I gotta uphold the reputation of the building.
Well, it's how it's built too. When you walk in the street door, you're in the live room right away. There had to be some, like, do you lock that when you start recording, or has there been at times where you forgot to lock it and somebody walks in during a recording and you've got to start it again? Yeah,
I had force field in. We were just doing scratch tracks, like getting the guitars recorded to a click so the drummer could practice to it. And some guy just walks in, and ever since then I lock it now. But I think my landlord and I, we were talking about getting that door changed out this year too, just so there's less bleed from traffic. And then I want to get those windows covered in something a little thicker. I've got some material that I can basically insulate the windows a little better for sound and for heat.
It is a cool setup, and I like what you did with the back lounge and everything in there. And has Tony Anders been back at all?
No,
you know of?
No.
I mean, and you've worked with him in the past, haven't you?
Yeah.
So you guys are friends.
We haven't spoken in a few years. I don't know.
I know Verona Grove just put out a new album.
Okay.
Maybe they should record at SourceTrack.
I think Tony's got everything they need covered. I mean, like I said, I think he's probably the best mixer in this area. I hope he's still I mean, obviously, I'm sure he did the Verona Grove stuff. Yeah.
Well, so besides, like, Tony Anders, when you were interested in doing this, who else from the area were you looking up to, like, as far as inspiration to start your own business?
Mark Golde, for sure. When I was in, I went to UW Oshkosh for recording, and Mark came in to talk to our class once, and ever since I met Mark, I was like, that guy, he's the real deal. And then when he had that beautiful console, you walk in and see that, oh man, how do you go wrong with something like that? And then in 2021, I met Patrick from HoneyTone, and their studio is just incredible. And Jeff's a great engineer. I really like their folk stuff. So we've got a lot of talented engineers around here too. So
yeah, Jeff and Patrick at HoneyTone, like, they definitely, man, the amount of gear they have is mind blowing.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah.
And as far as the nature of other studios, is there a competitive nature?
I've never seen it as competition because we do such different things. People are going to hire us for our process and for our sound. With HoneyTone, they've got that amazing Neve console. That's the dream console. And they mix all analog. So what's cool about analog is you get all the gear, you get the sound, you get the gooiness of it, but you don't get recall easily. So I don't know the recall process, but most studios that mix analog, you don't get a lot of mix revisions. A lot of times you don't need them because the console just sounds that good. So it really depends. With my studio, I go for like modern punch. I've got a lot of vintage gear, and I've got that old console that I redid and modernized kind of, but I don't use it for mixing because when I open up the session, I want it to sound exactly as it did last time I left. So if someone just wants hi-hats down a little bit or background vocals up, I can just move that up 1 dB and it's exactly the same except for that change.
And it's like the console itself, to me, like it looks like it's just too many buttons that I wouldn't know what to do with it. But how important is the gear when you're recording? I mean, is that a necessity?
I mean, I was making records when I had just a regular 8-channel interface. It got a lot easier when I redid that console. It makes a big difference in the sound coming in to the computer. And I really think, especially with compression, there's real magic in hitting a hardware compressor before you hit a converter to get it into the computer, because software compressors don't work the same way. So I'm compressing a lot of stuff on the way in, or I'm driving the console hard enough to have some natural compression and saturation on the way in, just because I want that color, so I have to do less later. And it's more inspiring when you hear something right off the mics and it sounds like a record right away. That's the goal. That's the goal.
Can you tell when a project starts if it's going to be a painful experience for you or a pleasant? Like you just mentioned it, when it sounds great right away, it's a good feeling. Can you tell right away, you don't have to give examples, but can you tell if it's going to be a bad experience or not a bad experience, but like a very long, like a lot of hand holding? Is that something you're able to identify right off the bat?
Kind of depends. That's why I ask for phone demos from bands. I screen bands that I work with. I only take projects that I'm excited about because I have the coolest job in the world, and I don't want to lose sight of that, getting lost in the weeds. So the bands I work with are bands that I want to work with. So there's always some, like, there's stuff I like doing, like vocal coaching. I love recording vocals and coaching a vocalist into an amazing performance. And then when they hear themselves in all their layers, like, I love it. Absolutely love it. And then when I can get a drummer excited about just smashing their shells, it's great. I love doing that stuff. The one thing I don't want to do is teach a musician how to play their instrument in the studio. That's not good for anybody. So that's why I have to screen people before, because obviously there have been projects like that. The first project I ever did, actually, in college, it was terrible. My friend Zach and I, we spent hours and hours with this vocalist, just going and going. And after that experience, after the first one, I was like, all right, not doing this anymore.
I think we're in a time too where people are so used to, like, oh, we can fix that in post. You know, there's got to be players out there that go into the studio and just, you know, they don't have a sense of timing, that expect you to do a lot of cleanup after the fact.
Well, if they don't have a sense of timing, a lot of times they don't even know they're off time, and I just fix it.
So then they hear it, and they're like, wow, I sounded great.
Yeah. I'm pretty quick with editing. Like, I'm no Chris Lord-Alge. I'm not the most amazing mix engineer in the world. I mean, obviously, Chris Lord-Alge is #1 for a reason. But I've become quite the editor. So many bands call me a wizard. It's weird.
Is it hard not to, like, you mentioned coaching, like, just coach, like, you guys go home, play with the metronome, you know, but if you're used to fixing it so quick, I suppose second nature, you don't even think about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I screen them. I have to make sure that they're going to be able to perform in the studio. Coaching into a good vocal performance is more like getting the feeling out of the vocalist to match the song. That's so important.
Well, it's hard too, and all of a sudden you're not. You used to playing with a band. All of a sudden you're standing. If you're standing there by yourself, singing along to your recording, and you feel almost naked in a way.
You're under a microscope, and it's intimidating. And I get that. I totally get that. So that's why it's so important to keep the attitude fun and fresh in the studio. If we're not having fun, we're not going to make a good record. So I always wanted to be the most fun studio people record at.
So what are some of the tricks to get a vocalist comfortable? Dimming the lights, or what's the...
It really depends on the vocalist. I've done dimming the lights. one time for Ave Imperator, this is back at the home studio, Desi needed a bunch of candles lit around her, like she was performing a seance or something, and she nailed it in one take, like the entire song. So it can be external factors like that, but a lot of it is just reinforcement, like being cool about it and taking what's good and letting them know, hey, give me more of that. Give me what's good. If you're just pulling weeds, the garden won't grow, figuratively speaking. But if you're giving the plants sunlight and sugar and water, they're gonna grow. So give it the good stuff, and you don't have to worry about the weeds.
Well, there's a lot of different rooms at the studio. Have you tried doing vocals or different things like in the lounge? How does the sound in the lounge compare to
the lounge is a cavern. It's too reflective in there. Sometimes artists or vocalists record in the live room. Sometimes they record in the control room right by the desk, so we can get that live feedback. Like Where's the Key always records by the desk. I just cleaned out the very, very back. A lot of people don't even know there's a room back there.
Behind the lounge?
Yes. See, a lot of people don't even know that. Right now it's kind of storage because when we moved the studio over, I put all the gear back in its original box because I'm OCD about that and didn't want anything to get wrecked. So there's a lot of gearboxes back there. There's a bunch of insulation foam and some studio doors and stuff like that. So stuff that takes up a lot of space. But there's also a desk back there, and it's going to be a video studio at some point. But I was thinking, I just cleaned it out Friday, and it's looking really good back there. So maybe I can record guitar players and drummers at the same time and keep the live take, or maybe we can put a vocalist back there and run a really long cable. So I'm working on some things, but right now there's 2 spots that vocalists can record in.
Doing something like that, obviously you have to figure out which band you're going to try it with.
Yeah.
And it's always, to me, I think the challenge there would be making yourself actually do it, because, this is just my view on it, doing something like that, is it easy to think, well, maybe I'll try that on a project down the road, and then you just kind of kick the can?
I don't know. I guess sometimes I forget about stuff if I kick it down the road. So it's always in the back of my head. But for something like that, that would work really good really well for a band like Disco Naps. They record everything live, and we keep the live guitar take. So that would be really good to put Shan in the back, so there's no bleed from anybody else, and then because the bass and guitars for that band are all DI, and so are the keys. So just put everyone else in the live room, and then Shan in the very back, and I mean that would work really well. So I've always got ideas for that kind of stuff. It's just finding the right band for them. I always want to cater what I'm doing to the artist and their music, not what gear I have or what space I have. It's not about me. It's about making their music the best it can be.
Do you prefer going DI or miking up the amps? And people that might not know, DI just means direct input, where it's coming directly from the amp through a cord into the board.
Yeah,
right?
Directly from the guitar. Yeah, you just record a squeaky clean signal. I always love miking up real amps. I think I was talking to my friend Jeff about this. Anytime I record with an amp sim, there's just not as much life, and I have to create the life versus a real amp. There's moving air. You can't emulate that physical push of the speaker, and you don't have to crank it. But there's some real magic in that as well. Finding guitar tones is always fun. But if it's a band that is like recording one song at a time, but we need all of them to be pretty cohesive, then I like to record with amp sims so we get a cohesive sound. So it's again, catering to the musicians and what they need.
Well, what would you consider to be the secret sauce of SourceTrack Studio?
The coffee. People come for the recording, but they stay for the coffee.
Oh, you brought me a cup today.
Yes.
I appreciate the imports.
The imports. Yeah, I really think just focusing on the musicians, what they want, and then having fun, having a really good time. I'm not the best engineer around. I know some amazing engineers, but I might be the most fun guy, you know? If you can go into a studio and you can have fun and not be stressed while you're recording, people are going to choose that 90% of the time, because being under that microscope, it can be stressful. I mean, it's when I record myself, I don't really care anymore. I'm at a point where it's like, all right, well, just do it. But for people that, especially if it's their first time recording, that is nerve-wracking. And if they can be with a guy who's going to keep the mood light and still have them, you know, get the tracks done well, but they're having fun and they won't be stressed about it, it's going to alleviate any pressure off of them. That's what I go for, you know? That was a word salad answer.
The Fox Cities has so much talent in this area. What is it about the Fox Cities that made you decide to put your studio here instead of somewhere like Milwaukee or Madison that has a bigger population?
I lived in Menasha and didn't want to drive.
What's the scene like in Menasha? Do you think you could have found a place in Menasha and been just as successful?
Without getting too much into the local politics, I think Appleton is better to their local businesses. I'll leave it at that.
Well, near your current location, you know, people can find it if they're interested in working with you, but it's right off the avenue. And if you could change the location to somewhere else in Appleton, would you want to be even further downtown, or are you happy?
I think the location's perfect. I love the location. It's easy for me to get here in the morning. It's easy for bands to find. Just get on College Ave and then turn left at the pizza place. It's easy for everybody. And what I like about you've been there, so there's not a big sign. It's pretty inconspicuous. So people that don't know what's there won't get any sticky finger ideas, you know?
Well, it's kind of like going to when you do the open house, it's kind of like going to the secret unlabeled restaurant in New York. You know, you're going, like you said, it's nondescript. So you walk into it, normal building, you walk in the front door, it's like, whoa, you know, it's like walking into a whole different realm.
Right.
Do people go, a lot of the artists that are recording there, do they go to Stuck's? Like, where do they go to eat?
Tipsy Taco has been, that's been the restaurant of choice for SourceTrack Studio the last year and a half. Stuck's is really good, but I'm really big on health, and I can't be eating pizza every day.
Was there a point you were eating pizza every day?
Yeah, I dropped about 10 pounds recently, put on some muscle, and yeah, dude, their $10 calzone lunch, that's dangerous. That is so dangerous.
Well, when you're in the studio all day, you do have to grab a lot of quick things. So as far as staying healthy and finding time to get out and move, what do you do to keep active?
I go to the gym a lot. I really work out a lot. Even if I can only be at the gym for 20 minutes that day, I'll go. I have the coolest job in the world, but it's still a desk job, and I sit a lot. So that is so important. And then I make a lot of meals at home, a lot of chicken, and I take stuff to the studio for lunch. And then I have to get my face off a screen, so I go on walks throughout the day if it's nice out.
How do you rest your ears in between these things? Because when you're listening to takes, you know, something's recorded, you typically listen to it right away, or the band will. Will you get up and walk out, or will you sit in there and listen to the music playback while the band listens to it?
Yeah, I'll be in there with the band. How I take a break is I don't listen to a lot of music outside of the studio. Like I have a car hobby. I've got two 50s Packards, and a lot of guys, when some of my friends are over helping with the cars, they're like, "Hey, turn on some tunes." No. But then when we were setting up practice for Noetic after our show, Ben had some tunes going, and it was like, oh, this is actually kind of nice to just listen and not analyze everything. So maybe I should listen to more music.
Well, it seems like everybody's got one song that made them fall in love with, you know, a particular band or pursuing music. Can you narrow it down to a song or two that made you realize this is what I want to do for the rest of my life?
So there's a couple. When I was 3, my first CD I ever got was Boston. I think it was their greatest hits. And More Than a Feeling, dude, that song, that's the song that made me fall in love with harmonies. Like, I still remember hearing that for the first time. Everything that Boston has made has tons of vocal harmonies. But that made me fall in love with vocal harmonies. And then when I was in middle school, Fall Out Boy came out with Sugar We're Going Down. And dude, that song was so good. That music video was so cool. It made me want to be in a band. And then I was in a couple bands throughout middle school and high school, and then in college. And then in college I started recording, and I was like, oh, this is a lot cooler. I mean, being on stage is cool. I mean, and you get to play music with some of your best friends. I'll take that every day of the week. But man, when you're on the other side of the glass and like helping other musicians create their music, and they get to hear, like, when I hear a song, just again, like a phone demo, I can hear the final product in my head. Excuse me. I can hear the final product in my head, but when I can show the band and we get that vision to come to life, oh man, to see their faces is the coolest feeling.
More Than a Feeling, I would not have thought that was the song that got David Pietila into music, but that's great insight.
I love 80s music, man.
So it's interesting to me because you're recording a lot of different styles at SourceTrack. I saw that you were doing like a polka band at one point. How did you get into doing the polka band? That seems really outside your typical wheelhouse of bands.
It is, yeah. So that was the new generation. They had previously recorded with Mark, and Mark sent him over to me. They were doing this live album where they recorded their drums and bass live at this festival they played. I think it was the Polka Days. And then we overdubbed all the other tracks in the studio. And then I just sent it off Friday to get mixed by he's apparently like the polka guy in Michigan.
That's interesting to me. So that's going to be sold as a live album then? Because the bass and drums were live, and then we kept a bunch of the live vocal stuff in. It's interesting though, because even back in the day, I think like that was the way they did it, right? Like some of these old like 70s, 80s performances you hear, it's not truly what was, and not that that's not, you know what, and
yeah, I mean,
we
I
can
don't
get in
know.
the weeds about it as far as what people think is truly live, but that to me is interesting. Like just hearing that you know, you get rid of the imperfections by re-recording some of the stuff, but that's how it's always been done. But I don't think people realize that.
Well, and in the end, you have to make it marketable. You have to make it something people want to listen to.
Do you leave any flubs in just to give it more of a live feel, or? Sometimes,
yeah. We recorded the squeeze box and the accordion at the same time, so there's some bleed in the microphones, and if it was a solid take and if it felt good, we left it in. And honestly, I do that with other music too. Like, I don't like perfection when all the drums are hitting at the same time. I don't like that. It's got to have a little bit of variance to it, even just a couple milliseconds to get that flam and that human feel. And I don't like super tuned vocals either. I mean, I tune my vocals, but I still make it sound like the vocalist. I don't make it sound robotic.
What do you think of the current trend where vocals, there's no vibrato? It's almost like a solid, do you know what I mean? There's no wavering in the voice. It's one solid pitch. Almost like Glee, like those shows.
Oh,
kind of popularized that in a way.
Well, it's super auto-tuned.
Yeah, but I mean, do you think that's going to stay something that people want on their recordings?
I think it depends on the artist. Being in so many different genres, I get to see what works well with certain things. I love vibrato. I think it adds feeling, and I think people connect with it a little bit better. Obviously, too much vibrato, you're going to sound more like opera. So you got to find a balance of the style you're working in. But some singers have, like Lacey from Trash Pandas. She's got this like signature vibrato. It's so powerful, and sometimes I would ask her, "Hey, give me more of that vibrato." Again, watering and sunlight. Give me more of that vibrato because I want to hear Lacey come out of the speakers. I don't want to hear this straight tone sometimes. So it depends on the song, depends on the artist.
Do the artists normally send you a copy of what they recorded there? Or do you collect that kind of thing? Like if you record Trash Pandas, they normally send you a copy of that, or do you go out and get a copy to have for your collection?
Sometimes bands will give me a copy of it. Some bands even gave me some vinyls, which is really cool. I don't typically buy music because I don't listen to much. So I think it's really cool to see the physical copy of what we created. And I always appreciate it when bands give me one. I think it's really cool just to have her on the studio even. I want to get some stuff up in the lounge to make it look a little fancier and hey, here's some stuff that's been recorded here. So that's the plan for down the road with the CDs and records that bands give me.
Now, do you do mastering there as well, or just the recording?
I do recording, editing, and mixing. I don't like mastering. I like to send stuff off to Justin Perkins at Mystery Room.
Such a good business he's got there.
Dude,
he's like the man for mastering.
Yeah, he's the master. One of the smartest dudes I've ever talked to. He's so good at mastering. Mastering is a specific thing. He's got all this gear, and it's got a left and right channel specifically for mastering. All that gear is designed just for that. That's the guy you want mastering your stuff. His speaker system, I think, is like, it's more expensive than most of my studio stuff put together. I mean, he can hear stuff that nobody else can hear because he's just focused on quality control and mastering and making stuff loud and making sure it sounds good on every speaker system.
Well, that's got to be something that a band overlooks when they're recording. If you've never done it before, like,
yeah,
we recorded it, we're done. But if you're going to put it on vinyl or CD or iTunes, you've got to go through the mastering.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Vinyls need a separate master. They have to have less high end and low end because if there's too much of that, the needle will literally tear the vinyl. So a really good mastering guy knows how to get you a solid master on vinyl, for digital, for CD, for cassette. Even Justin does cassette mastering. So it's a very specific thing that you just want somebody dedicated for that to do it.
Well, I think some of the record companies cut some corners at some point. I don't know if you know the band Foxy Shazam, but I was talking to one of the guys in the band and had a copy of their Church Rock and Roll album, and he said, "Oh, wow, they didn't make a whole lot of these. They never mastered it for vinyl." So he said the needle like jumps. But I mean, that's like a bigger label too. So it's interesting that the shortcuts sometimes. But I guess if you're selling units, as Brett Newski likes to say, so the mastering is something like it's part of the puzzle. If a band is looking at start to finish costs, but there's other things as well, graphic design. I mean, you're like a piece of the puzzle. Do you find yourself explaining to bands the other things that they might, that they have to think about that comes along with the recording, or do you find yourself being a coach as far as getting these bands moved to the next step after they get finished recording with you?
Yeah, I really like that stuff. I mean, owning a business, obviously you think about business things all the time. And if you want to do this for real, you have to treat it like a business. Obviously, it's a really cool business. You can make music for a living. That's awesome. That's something I think Trash Pandas are doing really well at, is treating it like a business. And I mean, they're playing shows all the time. They have a great online presence. But you've got to think about all the graphic design stuff, like you said. It's not just the music. It's the distribution, when you're releasing, touring, stuff like that, merchandising. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. And I used to have meetings with every band that came through about where to go from there. But then I realized, excuse me, this coffee stuck in my throat. I realized not every band is looking for that. So if they have questions, they can always ask me questions, and I'll typically have an answer. If I don't have an answer, I'll find an answer.
Is there anybody on your wish list of bands that you'd like, or artists that you'd like to have record at SourceTrack Studio?
Oh man, I don't know.
Have you ever approached a band and suggested they record at the studio?
Yeah, I used to do cold outreach back when I was first getting started because I had 0 clients and also 0 experience. I don't like the cold outreach thing anymore because, well, number one, I'm too busy. I'm not great at following up, especially because A lot of it's through Facebook messages. And if anyone's ever messaged me on Facebook, you know that stuff gets lost. I'm so bad about it because I'm making records. I don't have time to be looking at my phone all the time. Really, I want people to want to record with me. And if they don't, that's okay. I'll send you to other places I recommend. I mean, there's lots of good studios in Wisconsin, and I know a lot of them. I've heard their work. I can tell you who's good for what. If you don't like my sound, but you still want to work with me, a little weird, but okay. If you want to work with me, you like my sound, and if you want to have fun, great. Come to SourceTrack Studio.
Well, near the band Noetic was here recently, and Ben, your drummer, was talking about how you tune the tom drums, which is something that not a lot of places do. So what genre of music would you consider your ear best for as far as recording, that you just know exactly what kind of sound you're going to go for when you start it? I'm guessing like the polka might have been a little bit something out of your normal realm of what you deal with, but is it metal? Is it punk? What is it?
Rock and metal. That's really what I specialize in. I've done, I mean, obviously there's a lot of subgenres: punk rock, hard rock, classic rock, all that stuff. Just rock and metal. That's my specialty. I love doing acoustic music. I absolutely love it. Especially acoustic guitar with drums. Oh man, love it. But stuff like polka, absolutely outside of my wheelhouse. We made it sound great. Yeah.
And now, all of a sudden word of mouth might hit, and you might end up being a polka hub. You know what I mean? Like, all of a sudden, SourceTrack might be the place to go for polka bands.
That'd be fine, too.
You never know, right?
That was actually a lot of fun. I mean, there was a song, Hot Dog Joe. I mean, they were just a fun group to be with. The new generation was awesome. If every polka band is like them, come on in.
So it's merchandise. I know you gave me a coffee cup a while back, which I love. It's behind you on the shelf back there. You probably can't see it in the shot, but as far as like T-shirts and things like that, have you been doing a lot of that kind of thing to promote the studio?
On the podcast website, back when it was live, I had a store where people could buy shirts and mugs and socks, and I didn't sell a whole lot. I've thought about doing stickers. I actually have to get another order of mugs. The main reason why I wanted the coffee mugs is because when people come to the studio, I want that cup of coffee to be really memorable. I want it to be the best cup of coffee you've ever had. And then you get a mug to go with it. And then when you drink coffee in the morning, you're always going to be thinking about SourceTrack Studio. So,
well, if you want a good cup of coffee, go record at SourceTrack, because I think you're pretty set up there for coffee.
Damn straight.
So you've got the website. You're still doing the podcast, but not as frequently in the videos that you're putting out.
Right.
Where can people go to find out more about SourceTrack Studio?
The best place is SourceTrackStudio.com. And then if you want to book a call or even just come tour the studio, just come hang out for a little bit, see if I'm the right fit, reach out to me. We'll book something, and I'll make you a cup of coffee.
So if a band is listening right now and they're thinking about recording at SourceTrack and they haven't recorded ever at a studio, what advice would you give them to prepare for their first real recording?
I have a free studio prep guide, actually. I'm working on getting that back out there because it was on my old website. New website I'm still in the process of updating, but just ask for the free studio prep guide. I'll email it to you, and it's got pages and pages of stuff, like different sections for vocalists, drummers, guitar players, bass players, even brass players. That studio prep guide will be your holy grail prep guide that if you read through that and do those things every day until you come record, it'll be cake. It'll be so easy.
And the best way, again, for people to reach out to you?
SourceTrackStudio.com.
David Pietila, thank you so much for coming in and spending some time with us today. It's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you for the coffee.
Dude, thanks for having me. This is so cool. I love it.